Here's Sam in Durant, Iowa. Great to have you on the program. I'm glad you patiently waited, too. Hello.
How you doing, Russ? Good to be talking to you. Been listening to you for a long time. My mom used to have you on the radio all the time when I was a kid. Been listening ever since.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that.
Well, I actually have two questions. My first one is in regards to Trump and Carson, because they are the front runners for the Republican candidates. It seems that, and I wanted to get your take on this, that the media and the liberal candidates and even some other Republican candidates really seem to fear them because they're not just your typical salesman politician. These guys are doers. They've achieved. They've been to the top of their field. You know, I mean, the only thing that Hillary's been on top of is Bill. You know, she hasn't done anything. Like, you know, she hasn't accomplished anything like these guys have.
Yeah, that's exactly. No. Hold it a minute. You're exactly right. There's a great question. You're trying to tell me that an accomplished real estate developer or an accomplished pediatric surgeon is less qualified than a woman who hasn't done anything? You are so on the button with this. This is part and parcel of how the political business has succeeded in characterizing itself as a specialized field with specialized talents, specialized qualifications that nobody else has. And yet there's no evidence they're qualified to do anything. I must continue. This is a great point you're making here. And we're back. Rush Limbaugh here, cutting edge of the societal evolution. It is an amazing thing. I think there's so much going on in this campaign that is turning everything upside down, particularly from the standpoint of the political establishment. They are like any other specialized business. And perhaps maybe even more glaring in one way. Politics has often been said to be its own business with its own ladder of success, its own set of experiences and talents and qualifications that you must master to climb that ladder and succeed, and that is usually by winning elections. Of course, there are a lot of other positions in politics. You don't have to run for office to be involved. You can consultant, staff members, any number of things. But for the people that run for office, it is said that there's a specific skill set that you can't learn elsewhere, that outside experience is not helpful, and it's very exclusionary in this regard. They're very elite in this regard, and they've been able to keep it a closed shop, and they have the appropriate language and philosophy. For example, the old saw that senators make lousy presidents. That's just, there's no science that says that. That's just analysis. You know why a senator makes a lousy president? Because you know how to work with people. A senator's a king. A senator's a one-man show, tells his staff to do this, that, and the other thing, and it happens. But as president, you can't do that. The counter to it are governors. They're the people that make great presidents because, they work with the legislature and they work with the opponents, they work with friends, and they're not kings. They have to compromise and learn to work with others. And I think some of that may be true to some extent, but I think a lot of it is created and evolved within that business to keep it exclusionary, much like the financial industry. Everybody wants money. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants to make more money, and whatever money they keep, they want it to grow. Nobody wants to lose any money. So everybody has a lot in common when it comes to money. But the people in the money business, they've set themselves up as super exclusive that do things and talk ways that you can't possibly understand. From the way they talk about their trading business to stock business to their portfolio management, you can't possibly comprehend it. You're not qualified, so you have to turn it over to them to handle for you, and people willingly do this. The language that they create for their own business is also exclusive. There's no way you can follow it or keep track of it. Economics in general is this way. Any number of other specialties in terms of vocation attempt to structure themselves this way. But politics is different because while it structures its own exclusive, close the ranks, only certain people are qualified, they still have to make it look like They're all just like the rest of us. That's part of the appeal. Hey, I mean, the rags to riches story. Yeah, I grew up in a one-room shack and had to walk 10 miles a day in the snow without shoes half of those days. I had definitely no hardship. And this is to relate to the voters out there, when in fact none of it may be true, but it's all part of the list of exclusive qualifications, skill sets, and experience that you must have if you're going to be in that business. And helping to guard it and helping to build the walls to keep the rabble out, of course, are the media. Drive-by media are complicit with government officials because, after all, government is where real power is. Now, it used to be that media held power accountable. Back in the old days of their monopoly, that was one of the false pretenses under which they operated. They were there to make sure the powerful were kept in check. Well, one of the reasons, or one of the aspects, one of the realities of the monopoly being blown is that the media no longer masks the side they've chosen. The media has now chosen power. They have aligned themselves with it. They never hold it accountable when the power holder is Democrat. But a number of things are coming along to upset all of this, particularly in the world of politics. They're finding it harder and harder and harder to keep the whole business exclusive or exclusionary. It wasn't that long ago that somebody like Dr. Ben Carson or even Donald Trump wouldn't have gotten to first base with the voters, because the voters used to believe that you had to have people experienced in politics who had experience in bringing home the bacon. A local congressman, a state senator, a United States senator. These people knew how to get their state's percentage of the federal budget and bring it home to build the old folks' home, or to build a bridge, or to build a juvenile job center, whatever. And so the voters were very compliant in keeping all of this distant and far off. You could talk about it, you could vote, determine who goes, but you were not really qualified to participate. But now look what's happened. Now we have in the lead in the Republican Party two people that have had literally no experience in politics other than making donations. And that's it. And they are leading the pack. So what do the gatekeepers for the elite political establishment do? They circle the wagons. And they immediately start talking about how these people are not qualified. And their willing accomplices in the media then begin to do stories, provide news coverage, focusing on these rubes. Trump, Carson, totally unqualified. Who do they think they are? And yet, when you get right down and look at it, we're talking about the world's most brilliant pediatric neurosurgeon who came from nothing in Detroit, Michigan, raised not by the government, rather by his mother, and then one of the world's great real estate developers, are being portrayed as idiots who are not competent and not qualified to comprehend how government works. And so they are immediately made suspects. They are tarred and feathered as pretenders and dangerous because they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what they're doing. On the other hand, we are told that somebody like Hillary Clinton, who hasn't accomplished anything, and I mean really hasn't accomplished anything, certainly in comparison to Trump and Ben Carson, we're told that is the ideal in American politics. Hillary Clinton comes from a family dynasty that is unequaled in American politics. Unequaled at what? Lying, distorting, corrupting, leaving the White House broke and now worth multiple millions of dollars without having jobs? How does that happen? What are they experts at? Selling influence? Peddling false stories about terror attacks in Benghazi? Are they really experts at escaping responsibility for their deadly screw-ups? You realize what an insult it is to have to sit here and be told that somebody like Ben Carson, like Donald Trump, or anybody else like them that might seek public office is dumb and unqualified, inexperienced, not worthy, not capable of entering the political arena? And at the same time, we have to sit here and be told that Hillary Clinton's at the pinnacle? Well, isn't that what's wrong with it? If Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are the pinnacle of the American political system, that to us is all the evidence we need to know that it's terribly wrong. And there's something terribly wrong with it. What is it she knows best how to do? Wield the power of the executive branch? Raise taxes? Destroy economies? The American people have been asked in public opinion polls, and they have said over and over again in shockingly large numbers that she's dishonest and untrustworthy. And yet she is far more qualified than Ben Carson or... And I can hear something, but Rush, we're talking about the presidency. See, this is the trap. It's easy to maybe think, yeah, Trump may not be cut out to be president. He's just a one-man show. You got to work out. I understand how people can concoct reasons to be afraid, but when we're talking about qualifications and competence and getting things done, I don't think it's anything but an indictment of politics for us to have to sit here and be told that people that can't accomplish anything in the real world are the real accomplished people in politics. I think that's something that's wrong with it. Democrat Party can't find anybody better than Hillary Clinton? Are you kidding? Within every walk of life that's represented by the Democrat Party, they can't find anybody any more qualified than Hillary Clinton? I just want to know, how is it possible that the most accomplished non-politicians are less qualified than a politician who is known for decades of gross negligence, deceit, failure? How does that person end up being labeled the expert and the most qualified? Now, how's it happening? How in the world is all this happening? What has turned everything upside down? Well, it's actually good, the things that have caused this to be turned upside down, and that is the American people are actually not the idiots that liberals want them to be thought of as. The American people, the last 7 years, have seen that the current crop of people running this government are in the process of destroying it and doing perhaps incorrectable damage to the country. They have been voting for years, sanctioning or believing promises that have been made, both parties. People get elected, the promises are ignored, they're never kept. The case of the Republicans, you know the drill. They campaigned to stop Obama, and then they go to Washington and end up joining him and helping him accomplish his agenda. And I think the tipping point has been reached. The American people aren't going to be fooled anymore. And they're fed up with this inside elite, political, exclusionary bunch of people that are perceived to be doing great damage to the country for everybody else, but not for themselves. They somehow remain unaffected by all the damage they're causing. But everybody else is in real pain, is suffering real fear. And they have legitimate fright over the future of the country. So alternative people are being turned to. And this has got the entire political establishment bent out of whack to the point that the objective now is to destroy these outsiders. So the focus is now on Ben Carson. CNN and a number of other places are now focusing their full attention on Ben Carson to destroy him and disqualify him, much as they tried with Trump and failed. They're going after Carson on the fact he's deeply religious, Seventh-day Adventist. That means he's a kook. It means he's automatically a kook, untrustworthy, dangerous. These people are so contradictory. When the Pope comes out and says something they like, they become the biggest pro-religion people you've ever seen. The normal day, they hate the Pope. A normal day in America, they hate the Catholic Church. But let the Pope come out and criticize capitalism, all of a sudden he's the best religious leader they've ever heard of, and they glom on and they love him. And the next day, the Pope still says abortion's bad, and they say, screw you, Pope. We thought you were on our side, but you're not. Go back to talking about how bad capitalism is. Bring Ben Carson along, some other Republican, no tolerance for religion, religious views, religiously informed views whatsoever. And at the center of this is the end of the mainstream media monopoly, where all of this used to be able to be controlled. They used to be able to control every upstart by never covering them. Nobody ever knew there were upstarts. If the upstart did occasionally escape and get noticed, it was easy to destroy them. But it's not as easy to destroy people today. It's not as easy not to report news today. The advent of the new media and Facebook and Twitter. And you know what you have here? Ben Carson doesn't need the media to reach his audience. He doesn't need the media to reach people. He's answering questions every night on Facebook. Trump and Carson's Facebook numbers are off the charts. They're reaching people directly, answering questions or asking questions, and the candidates are answering them. And they don't need the media at all. So the media is panicking too, immediately trying to set out to destroy Carson for one reason, just to prove they still can do that when necessary.